Welcome back to the Zyori podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us here for podcast number 77. It's July 21st, 2014, about 12:30 p.m. here on the Pacific Coast, and we are 1 day away, less than 24 hours before I ship off for the International 5. Lots to talk about this week. Going to be a fun podcast. Before we get into it, remember to find the podcast on iTunes. That's one of the best ways you can support the podcast without having to pay any money. Just subscribe there, give an honest feedback, and leave a review. We really appreciate it. And by we, I mean I'm really the only one that gives a shit about anything Zyori podcast related. So, trucking forward here, TI5 right on the horizon. I'm really fucking excited. You know, I have been thinking about this for the past month, basically since we got back from the TI5 qualifiers. I've just been thinking, I can't wait to go to Seattle. I hope I get invited to Seattle. Oh my God, I got invited to Seattle. And today I woke up with that feeling, tomorrow I'm going to Seattle, yes! But I'm really behind on my packing. As you can see, there aren't clothes all over the floor. So that means packing hasn't started yet. I'm going to be taking a lot of this audio gear, this here mixer and that here camera and that there computer. And all this stuff is going to get jammed in my bag so that I can do some content while I'm there. And I don't just mean content at the event. The plan is to keep up. We're going to try to do at least 3 Zyori podcasts while I'm at TI. I don't know if I'm going to be able to live stream all or any of them, but we are going to record them at least and plop them up there for audio only as well as YouTube viewers. So should be pretty awesome. I don't know who I'm going to podcast with yet. I'm planning on YOLO just a little bit with who's going to be around, where I'm going to go, and who I'm going to get to podcast with me. But I'm sure we can find some people. I really want to podcast with Maud. I've been trying to line that up for like over a year now. I remember TI4 qualifiers. Mott, we should do a podcast one of these days. That was when I learned that Mott likes Star Trek. And I said to myself, holy shit, we could do a Star Trek podcast. You know, I love it when I have an idea for a themed podcast. You know, that's like my inner queer just bubbles out and gets so excited when I can have like a themed thing. And I'm like, guys, we should have a 5-day-long Christmas party. It's going to be awesome. Themes are the shit. You know, Toffee's political podcast, Mott, Star Trek podcast. And it hasn't happened. Maybe this will be the event when it finally happens. Could you imagine a Periscope live Zyori podcast from the floor of the International in Key Arena? I think that would be too much. I'm not streaming a podcast from Periscope. We're getting crazy with it. But no, Mott is definitely on my short list. He's one of the people I want to hit. The reason I'm planning on going kind of YOLO with it is because I don't know who's going to be available. I have no clue what the schedule looks like in terms of talent. I don't know if Red Eye's like hosting everything. I don't know if him and Chober are trading off. I don't know if people will have downtime at the main event or if most people will just be working like crazy and anyone who's working there is just instantly off the list. I don't know. Maybe that'll be a good time to catch some group stage casters. Worst case, we'll just do a Zyori podcast from TI, and I feel like that could be okay too. You know, that's passable, right? That's doable content. So I got to get all this shit packed up. Yesterday, I was going to start doing packing and stuff. What I really wanted to do was get this podcast out of the way yesterday, but I really suck at scheduling is really what my life boils down to these days. I had a family dinner yesterday. Of course, I forgot about it. So Sunday, I'm thinking, oh, great, subscriber Sunday. It's going to be awesome. We're going to play games. I might do a podcast. Probably not because I'm lazy. We're still going to stream. It'll be awesome. Then I realized, oh, yeah, BTS America's Grand Finals is on. Well, fuck. It's 2-2. I already said I was going to stream. Yeah, let's just go for it. Maybe it'll be over soon. Goes 2-1. I'm feeling hopeful. And then, of course, it goes to Game 5. And the Game 5 is like this long, ridiculous 90-minute redonkulous fucking game of a grand final, Game 5. Or actually, was it Game 4? Maybe it didn't go to Game 5. Whatever, I can't even fucking remember. I was streaming the whole time. The last game was ridiculous. I ended up cutting the stream early because nobody was watching, because nobody was playing, because nobody was watching, because everyone was watching BTS Americas, which makes perfect sense. Why would God, what an idiot. Why would I try to do sub day during BTS Americas? So I pushed it to Monday. And of course, I slept in on Monday. And then I realized, oh, I've got this family dinner, so that's not happening. And then there's today where we're doing it right now, but there's going to be no sub day. So I don't know, man. I see how rich people, you know, spend too much money on things that seem frivolous to normal folks. If I had enough money to hire a stylist, oh, hey, that's a sub. Whoa, thank you, Scott PTV. Hey, that surprised me for a second there. God. Sorry, audio-only listeners. You totally just threw off my train of thought. Fuck. Why do I turn that thing on during the podcast? It ruins my cadence. What was I talking about? I've got total morning brain. Oh yeah, hiring a stylist. I would just hire people for every job. I can't match my fucking clothes. I'm colorblind as fuck. You should see me in there. It's literally the blind leading the blind. I'm in my closet looking at all my weird stripy shirts, looking at all my blazers, just thinking, does this work? Do these stripes go with those stripes? Can I mix polka dots with that faded paisley design? Does black go with green? Am I supposed to wear brown shoes or black shoes? Oh my god, I can't handle this. And that is why I've blown off packing until the very last second, because I will just stress about the clothes and the colors and what to do with it, because I can't see them. I don't know what's going on. I'm just throwing darts and hoping it works, you know? I did get a bunch of my clothes tailored, though. I'm really pumped. I bought a new suit just for TI5. I'm going to wear it probably on the first day of the main event. It's very different. It's a little bit funky. I hope it's not too much. When I bought it, Joy's response was, "That's an old man suit." And I was like, well, first of all, fuck you. Second of all, it is a little retro, but come on, that's what's cool about it. You know, she didn't seem to get it. So I finally got my white coat tailored as well. Man, I think it was like $100 to get tailored, but oh, it was worth it. It fits like a button now. It's so nice. I love it. That's the one that I wore to that, was it Star Ladder 11 maybe? Maybe it was Star Ladder 10. It was right after I got it. It was just too fucking big. I was swimming in it. Everybody looked like I was bulking up. I had these massive shoulders. Got a lot of negative feedback on that one, but it's such a nice coat. I'm so glad I finally got it fixed. So, you know, I could totally drop some bills on a stylist there. A secretary that could remind me when I'm being an idiot. You know, I've been trying to project manage my life a little bit better. After reading all these project management textbooks, my takeaway was like, well, fuck doing project management for a job. That's really not fun. Shout out to all the project managers out there. But my life could use a project manager, and I'm probably the most qualified and best suited for it. So now I've got multiple Google schedules. I've got them layered so I can toggle them on and off, but that still doesn't help me in my day-to-day when I go, yeah, sure, fuck it, someday tomorrow, sounds awesome. And then it turns out that I have to drive to fucking Palm Springs an hour and a half each way to go see family. So I don't know. I'm just pontificating here. What else do we have to talk about this week before we're done with TI? I want to talk about having babies. That was nuts. I think most of us probably saw that viral video. We're going to talk about China a little bit. I want to talk Atari. Oh, man, what an interesting bit of dialogue this whole Atari thing has turned into. We did a podcast maybe a year ago, something like that, a year and a half ago. I've been doing the podcast for a while. It's been multiple years now. The Zyori podcast has been going. We did an episode about the E.T. game that was supposedly dumped in that big landfill in New Mexico. Really weird, the whole thing. There was this rumor that there were like millions of the E.T. game dumped in there, and this was known as like the worst game ever, and it was so bad that it like took down Atari, and they printed so many of these shitsters that they couldn't sell that they had no option but to just throw them in a landfill. And since the game is so notoriously bad now and it's so old, it's kind of worth something. It's like $5 or $10 a copy. So people are like, oh shit, there's millions of them in there. We could be millionaires selling E.T. games. Now the thing of it that always chapped my ass was wondering, why do you think there are millions of people out there that give a shit about old Atari games? I think that's a very niche market. So, like, yeah, they're worth $5 now because they're kind of rare. If you flood the market with them, they're not going to be worth anything. You're giving away these old ET cartridges that don't really work. You know, like, who gives a fuck? So the whole thing was very strange. They actually followed up and went for it. They filmed a whole documentary about it. And it was a hybrid, what happened to Atari, what was the business model all about, and the second part of it was this dig and kind of just documenting the experience and the expedition of getting all the approvals and going out and being able to dig up a landfill to find a bunch of old video games. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. What else do we want to talk about for TI5, though, before I get too far ahead of myself? Aside from being unbelievably, massively excited, I don't know who I'm casting with. That is one question mark that's a little bit disconcerting, isn't the right word, but I don't know how to. I don't know. My stream just lagged out. That was weird. I don't know how to prepare for that. I really have no idea who I'm casting with for the group stages. For some reason, my instincts, my inner soul is telling me Coddle Guy. I don't know if that's wishful thinking. I don't know if it's just because I haven't casted them in a while and I'm itching to do it. But he was added in. Most of the other group stage casters, I don't have a natural partner for. Most of the other BTS people aren't really doing group stage stuff. I don't know if there are any main event casters that are casting the group stage. Like, are LD and Toby going to do the whole kit and caboodle? Are they just on the group? Are they just on the main stage? I really don't know the answer to any of these questions. So I'm not stressing about it. I'm just smiling going in, and I'm ready to cast with anybody. Honestly, everyone that's been invited, I think I could cast with any of them, and it wouldn't be a big problem. It would actually be a whole bucket of fun. So that's what you got going on there. So let's talk about this TI5 format a little bit. It was announced how long ago? Maybe 4 or 5 days ago. It doesn't really matter. Prize pool's up to 17 million. That's exciting. They finally pumped out the portal for the international. It's Dota2.com/international/overview. In case you've been living under a rock and missed it, there's also a link on the index of Dota2.com on their blog page. They showed the splits this year, which look pretty damn good, I have to say. I think this is a big step up. It's much less top heavy. The nice thing about having a $17 million prize pool is you can make the distribution a lot better and still give the first team fuck you money. It's over $6 million for first place, so everybody that wins the TI in terms of that 5-man squad will be walking away with $1 million before taxes. They'll end up with a lot less than that in their actual pockets, but pretty exciting. Going to create 5 millionaires basically over the span of a couple weeks here, and it stays in the millions actually until 6th place. So it's $1.1 million for 6th place at TI5, which is actually nuts. If you think about how big the prize pool was for TI1, that wasn't that long ago. 2011 was still in the recent memory of a lot of folks. For all the old timers out there, that was, just practically a couple days ago. And that was $1 million for first place. And that cooked people's noodles. That really, that made some serious shockwaves. People were they didn't believe it. Some people thought it was a hoax put on by Valve. Why would Valve do that? Valve's a reputable source. Anyway, so it's just crazy to kind of admire how things have grown and how much money is going out about there. Now, down 13th through 16th, $50K per team. I think that's okay. I think that's on the low end. I feel like you can, you look at that and compare it to the 6 million in first place. What's another 100,000 to that group? But if you split that across that bottom team, or the bottom 4 rather, it makes a bit of a difference. That's very, very nuancy, though. I think overall this is really a big improvement. Whole bunch of ways to watch this year. They've got Steam broadcasting, YouTube, Twitch, DVR replays, pub stomps. They're doing another noob stream of some sort. I guess they're switching the way the noob stream works, where it won't be so much a secondary stream where they're just talking in a very basic tone so that noobs can watch it, but more so a pre-planned show for certain days. It's once a day during the main event. There will be a newcomer show that sort of breaks down where they're at in the bracket, what's going on, and the basics of Dota. So for the newcomers, there will be kind of a storyline that they can follow. And this is a big improvement. I think the big problem with the noob stream last year was that it was too chaotic. Right, you have a really cool broad concept, but making it work in a more specific manner is difficult because the gap of knowledge between people that know literally nothing about Dota and know a little bit but really suck, they've never played, is a world of difference. Right, the newcomers, you have to be painfully basic. Okay, this is a hero. Okay, there's 5 heroes on each team, and there's 2 teams. Okay, now each team of 5, they're going to go in these lanes, and they're going to kill these little dudes called creeps. Now, creeps are what you call non-player controlled units, or NPCs, if you will. And they spawn in every lane, every minute, and just push into each other and kind of fight. Now, you want to stand behind your creeps and just try to get experience and get gold by killing them, while kind of trying to zone out and fight the other person on the other team, the other heroes. That's mind-blowing. That's earth-shattering to someone who's never even fucking seen a game of Dota before. They're like, all right, wait, slow down. You got the NP what's now? Okay? But someone who already understands the basic foundation, they've played a few games of League of Legends and now they're watching Dota, they get the basic concept. They want to hear, what's that hero's name? What are his spells? What do his spells do? They're already up onto that next level of, all right, I get the foundation. Now let's start talking some specifics. Let's talk some strategy. So it's really hard to cater a stream like that to an audience that you don't really know who's watching, because you have those complete newbies and you have people that are more experienced that want more of a storyline. And if you're always going back to the basics, then you've got all these people that really want a storyline and they're hearing the same shit getting mulched over time and time again. Now, at the same token, you can't make it too complicated, because the whole point of the stream is, oh, you don't know what Dota is? Well, come over to the noob stream and you'll be able to learn. So you have to keep it at that really fundamental baseline of casting. And it's just hard. It's really difficult, I think, to try and summarize it that way. So I mean, I don't know what they have in mind here exactly, if it's just like an hour special every day, what show actually means. But this implies that it's a little more targeted, probably pre-recorded and then streamed live, something with a little more post-production. I think that's cool. I like the idea of that, and I think it's really important to nurture the newcomers. You know, a big event like this, it's like the flagship thing for Dota. This is the big marketing vessel that makes our game look sexy. This is the thing that we want newcomers to see and go, damn, all right, this is pretty pumping. You know, we want people to be in awe of what we're doing here, not just like, man, that noob stream was a cool idea, but it kind of sucked. I had no idea what they're talking about. You know, you need to find a way to interact with those people. And that's part of the reason I like cosplayers so much. We've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I'm really pumped about seeing all the cosplayers at this TI. We made a cosplay group on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, I recommend joining it if you like cosplay. If you don't like cosplay, obviously you shouldn't join it. But it's just a general group. League of Legends has one of these. There might have been one for Dota already, but I couldn't find it. There was one for ESL Frankfurt, but this is not targeted. It's just, hey, you like cosplay, you want to get into cosplay, you think you might want to do cosplay. Oop, that link is fucked. You think you might want to do cosplay at some point. There you go. Bada boom, bada bing. That's going to be a group for you. So up and coming here. It would be cool if there was a cosplay competition at this TI, but I just don't see it happening. Maybe TI6. I think the first step is just showing that there's a lot of cosplayers that are cool and interested and excited. It's just another way to keep people engaged, and I'm really excited to see how many more people turn up this time. There weren't really that many cosplayers at TI4. There were some. There were a couple, but I'm planning on doing some profiles this go around. Networking around a bit and getting some pretty cool content with some of the cosplayers that are going to be there. So that should be pretty exciting. And check out that group as well if you are so interested. So, all right, enough pussyfooting around here. Let's talk about the actual format here. And you can find the format. It actually took me a minute. When I went to the website, you have to click on View Schedule. That's where you'll find the format. So we're just going to go over the general concept here, pretty broad strokes, and then we're gonna point to some parts that are particularly good and some might argue are not so good here. So things get kicked off on the 26th with the wild card stage. You know what? I think I have an overlay for this. My golly, oh gracious, I do. Here we go. Look, oh, production value. Okay. So the 26th is when things get started. The top two teams will advance to the group stage. This is the play-in bracket. The bottom two teams are eliminated. It's all best of three. Very straightforward. Double elim bracket here. One day. That's all there is to it. So then the group stage starts. It's 4 days of group stage coverage. The general concept here: you've got two groups of 8 teams. There's 16 teams total. Teams play every other team in their group in a best of 2. So it's not that full 16 teams. Everybody plays everybody. This is awesome round robin that we had at past TIs. This is the 2 groups of 2 where you don't necessarily see every team play each other. Top 4 teams in each group advance to the upper portion of the main event bracket, and the bottom 4 teams in each group advance to the lower bracket of the main event. So there's a couple takeaways there. We can look at the bracket, and that doesn't really paint you a very clear picture. But what this means is that no one is eliminated during the group stage, and that's pretty fucking cool. That was one of the big points of argument, I think, in the wake of TI4. When we were doing our TI4 post-mortem show, I remember James was part of it. It was myself and LD and Brian. And the idea of, should every team have a chance to play at the main event? Should every team be in Key Arena and have an opportunity to be on the main stage? And one of the big arguments for that is that, well, for these international teams, a lot of the time, this is the biggest event they've ever been to. Their family's going to come support them. They want to come and see them on the big stage. And you're robbing this team of an opportunity to really, you know, expand some cultural pride, make a name for themselves, and just show off what they can do in front of a live audience. Get a taste of that real, true TI experience. it's easy for the event organizer to just make a format that lets them do that, and the value added is very obvious. They just get exposure, experience, and that's irreplaceable. You can't. What the fuck is going on with my webcam? God damn it! Sorry about that. But that's irreplaceable. You can't just wake up and say, "Hey, I want to go to TI. Let's see what it's like to be at a main event." Why is my camera freezing? What the shit is going on here? Why is my computer shit in the bed? Oh my fucking god. Well, we're just gonna roll with it here and see. Nope, we can't. We can't roll with it. For fuck's sake. I bet it was switching those overlays. I bet that broke something. All right, let's see here. Let me close a few things. We're gonna put the podcast on hold for a second. My god, stupid computer. I hate you sometimes, computer. I really hate you. Okay, is it better now? It looks better. We're gonna go with it. Okay. All right, so yeah, we're back. We're gonna keep rolling with it. I don't know what the fuck is going on with this thing. Hopefully, it stays good. Everything's falling apart. So I closed the tab with the international in it. So anyway, it's a cool idea to give everybody that chance at the main stage, because you can't get that experience. You know, it's pretty analogous to what I've talked about with practice casting and how you can't get experience just live casting in front of an audience. You can't reproduce the feeling of fucking up in front of 20,000 people. You just have to do it, experience it, move on, and become more mature because of it. You can't prepare yourself for it in any other way than to just dive in head first. So, I think it's cool. The big counter argument is basically what happened to MUFC at, what was it, TI3, TI2, the team that bombed out. Is it really good for the team that does not win a single game at the International to go whatever it is, 0-8 coming in, or 0-16 since it's best of twos, make it to the main event, and everybody knows, well, the chances of them taking a win here are pretty damn low. Is it really that cool for that team to just make it to the main stage and get whomped? You know, when you have the top 16 teams in the world, there's going to be a set of tiers. You know, the top teams, the middle tier teams, and the bottom tier teams will all be very different. And based on numbers, that bell curve is going to have some teams at the bottom that didn't really do so hot, and they're going to get rolled. It happens at every big event, and that's just kind of the way of it. That's what makes it a competition, right? Somebody's got to be eliminated first. I think the overall net good outweighs the overall net bad of like, well, it kind of sucks if they lost on the main stage. I think that's really good experience. Again, that's irreplaceable experience that you can't buy. You know, it's like the viral marketing of Dota. You just got to get in there and do it. So I think it's really good experience, and I think there's a lot to be said for just getting those land jitters out, especially if you're a newer player, if you're a newer team that has a younger roster. If you've never played on that main stage before, it's a completely different experience. Hearing the live crowd and just being in that high adrenaline, super high octane, really high stress environment, it's just great experience. And you have to get those land jitters out before you can really go to land and be one of those OGs. You know, be like Puppy and just rock up and be like, yeah, I've been to a lot of lands. I've been to more lands than birthday parties. You know, you don't get as nervous as you used to because you just done it so many damn times. I think that's probably the biggest improvement for the schedule this go around. Or for the general format this go-around. The main event is just straight double elim. It's nothing too crazy. I do think that the nice thing about this format is it's very simple. There's something to be said for tournament formats that are digestible. You know, you look. I always like to reference the NFL, but it's a perfect example here. Look at the NFL. It's pretty damn easy to follow what's going on, because there's not a lot of games. It's just this group stage with two conferences for the most part. They play each other. The top teams go to the playoffs. You've got some wild card. Then it's just a straight-up single-elim bracket, best of one until you get to the fucking Super Bowl, right? Super easy to follow. You look at a single-elim bracket, and pretty much any bonehead that's ever looked at a competitive structure can go, oh, cool, I can see exactly who's winning and who isn't. That is one of the biggest arguments for single elim. It's great for spectators, shitty for competitors, because it's very unforgiving. Half the teams get eliminated in the first round. What? If you have 8 of the top teams in the world there, half of them just, that's it, they're done in the first round, that's it. Hopefully you get a good matchup. There's a degree of RNG there. And double elim helps counteract that. You know, it gives you that buffer to have a bad day or take a risk in a draft, or if you get matched up against your antidote, then you have a chance to fight your way to the lower bracket. It also helps create underdog storylines. You know, like a team that gets eliminated in the first round, they grind their way through the lower bracket, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, this team has played so many more games. They were against all the odds, and here they are in the grand finals. Wow! You know, everybody freaks out, and it's awesome. Double elim encourages that. So it seems to be the best of both worlds. It's good for competitors, okay for spectators. End of the day, it's not that. It's confusing the first time, but once you understand it, double elim's pretty easy to follow. So I like that it's pretty straightforward. You've got the play-in, 2 groups of 8, seeded into a bracket. You play double elim, and that's it. You get out, and you're done. I remember back the MLG days, like 2011, circa 2012, in the StarCraft arena. My God, they had some ridiculous formats that were just unbelievably complicated. There was this really weird Reddit push for that interim period for absolute fairness in tournament structures. And every event, I would just go, and I called it the Board of Knowledge. It was just the big board that had all the brackets and the schedule and all the standings. And they would have, like, the open bracket where anybody could show up and play, and there's hundreds and hundreds of players. Then you have the invite bracket. And then there are pro players that play in the open bracket because they didn't get invited, and it's based off league points, and then they all get seeded into this like big group stage. Then they all play each other to get seeded into a bracket, and then the winners of that bracket get seeded into the championship Sunday bracket, and it's just this crazy massive just teams moving all over the place. I remember looking at the MLG brackets, and it's just a full-page web browser. Takes up the entire screen, and you can only see like half of whatever you're looking for. So you're just like, who is winning this tournament? What is the win condition for this tournament? How many fucking best of 3s do you have to win? And then you have the extended series bullshit. Oh, you have to win 2 best of 5s. He only has to win 1. It's like, what? How is this? This is the worst grand finals ever. The one thing that isn't clear is I hope there's no 1-game advantage for the best of 5 grand finals. I don't think that there is. I'm almost positive there is not, and I hope there isn't. That's kind of similar to extended series, at least in concept and on paper. I don't think extended series is very good. Extended series basically means winner bracket advantage. So if someone never loses a series, right? Or a team never loses a series, they cruise right to the finals. They make it there. They haven't lost yet. You've got a team that, let's say they lost second round. They've been climbing their way through the lower bracket. They've had to play more games. They make it to the grand finals. Now, these 2 teams are about to face off. One of them has failed and used their get-out-of-jail-free card in the lower bracket. The ones that went through the upper bracket have not used a get-out-of-jail-free card. They technically could still lose and should be able to go down in the lower bracket and have another chance. That's what most people would argue. So the thought process is, okay, give them an advantage. If it's a best of 7 grand final series, they're already up 1 game, you know? Or best of 5, you're up 1 game, whatever it is. In StarCraft, they did it in series. So it was like a best of 3, and if the other person won, then it goes to another best of 3. So you had 2 mini-series. That's why it was extended instead of like a best of 5, 1-game advantage. So it was slightly different, but the same thing in principle. And the problem is that's a big advantage. That's a really big advantage. Like that's for TI, that is millions of dollars in difference. That 1 game is worth so fucking much. And there isn't a great middle ground. I think the best that you can do is give the upper bracket team like a free coin toss. Say, okay, you get choice of side and pick games 1, 3, and 5. Something like that. You get first, you win the toss. I think that's an advantage, but not a huge one. You know, it's that sweet spot. It's kind of like the double elim of extended series for finals of who to give an advantage to. You need to give them some kind of an advantage. If you give them absolutely no advantage, it almost encourages you to lose earlier. Not really. The other argument is that you that's actually not true. It doesn't really encourage you to lose because the other thing that people say is, well, you got to play less games. You know, you got to rest and watch them while they fought in the lower bracket finals, and they had to play, and they don't get to watch you. So, you know, that's warm-up time that, you know, they don't get, and it's more stressful and it's more tiring, and that is true, but a lot of people would argue that that's not the biggest of disadvantages. In fact, some teams would argue it's an advantage because you can ride the momentum. If you win the lower bracket finals, you're feeling good. You come into the finals with a lot of team morale, a lot of adrenaline, and that's a good thing. Some teams really feed on that. So, a little 50-50. Now, the one thing that I saw somebody post about this format that is potentially rocky is that there are 4 best of 3s in, one day. I got to pull up the schedule again. I closed it because my shit was lagging. Nope, those are the reborn updates. All right, view schedule. So if we look at the main event, day one, there's 2 best of 3s and then 4 best of 1s. Fine. Day 2, there's 4 best of 3s. Day 3, there's 4 best of 3s. Day 4, there's 3 best of 3s and an all-star match. Day 5, there's 3 best of 3s, and then day 6, there's a best of 3 and a best of 5. So overall, a pretty balanced schedule. As someone who has spent a considerable amount of time with all the summits, sitting in meetings, talking about tournament formats, tournament schedules, realistic versus over-ambitious scheduling, what's actually feasible, ways of limiting downtime to make these tight schedules more feasible. I think 4 best of 3s in one day is the absolute maximum. That should be not a shock, right? You've got as few, or pardon me, as many as 12 games, which is a fuckload. That's if all 4 series go 3 games, and you have a minimum of 8 games if all 4 series are 2-0 blowouts. So 8 games, very manageable. 12 games, it's going to be a long fucking day. Especially at an event like this, games tend to be longer, teams play more conservative, and teams do not tap out. That is one of the biggest fallacies that organizers make when doing a big event. I remember S2 did this really poorly at a few DreamHack events, where they said, well, yeah, I mean, we'll give an hour for each game, and, you know, the average game length is like 35 minutes. So, yeah, sure, some of them will be long, but there's going to be some quick ones, too. It'll average out. So that'll give us like 20 minutes on the end of each game to get everything all switched around. It's perfect, right? And that sounds really great on paper. And that works if you're casting pub games where people want a GG 10 minutes in because their carry didn't do one specific thing they wanted them to do. But when you're talking about like TI level games on the main stage, you do not fucking tap out until that throne is dead. Like, people hold on till the bitter end. If there is a chance the other team could still get overzealous, could still wipe in your well, you hang in there and you play that chance. You might know that it's a 5% chance, a 2% chance, a 0.1% chance, but the point is that it's a chance for fuck you money. And there's nothing to be gained by raging out or tapping out early because, like, wanting to GG out before you have more than 2 lanes of barracks down. That's basically saying, okay, if they play the rest of this perfectly, they're going to win no matter what. You don't want to assume that they're going to be playing perfectly. It's fucking TI. You're at the main event. People could be sick. People could be stressed out. The carry could have had to play 4 series earlier today. Maybe he's really tired. Maybe he's going to dive the well. Maybe he's going to miss a pounce. You know, you have to count on all those things. So games will be long. You can't look at the average game length for scheduling something like this. So 4 best of 3s will be a long day. It really will be. You just kind of hope that the law of large numbers kicks in, and overall you get a happy mix of 2-0s and 3-game series so that the schedule kind of works out. And that's the best you can do. I don't think 4 in one day is unachievable. I don't think it's that bad. The only time you would run into an issue is if the venue has a close time. If there is some sort of a hard, like Major All-Stars, for example, they had a hard deadline, like noise ordinance. At 11 o'clock, the venue closes. You don't have a choice. We pull the plug. You know, if Valve doesn't have to deal with that, surely there's some kind of a cutoff. But if the cutoff is 2 in the morning or something, yeah, sure, you have a late night. Your staff has to work a little extra. But come on, people are at the event. They're hyped up. It's really not the end of the world. It's only a big problem if it cripples the format because of extraneous circumstances. And here it says every broadcast will start at 10 a.m. So that's like a 10 to 10. That's a good straightforward day. So broad strokes here. I like the format. I think it's overall pretty good. I think it's very digestible. I think people spend a little bit too much time hyper analyzing these kind of formats with very nuanced things. I also have trouble picturing all of it. There are very weird nuances in tournament brackets you want to avoid. And some of them are, a big one is you never want a team to have to play the first game of the day and the last game of the day. You never want that to be a case. You never want that to be a possibility. And where things get confusing is there's always really weird tracks. There are low percentage tracks that a team or treks rather that a team could take through a bracket that really sucks, where, you know, they win the first round, they lose the second round, and then they win their way through, and then it works out that they have to play some really shit schedule where they're, you know, it's like a series break series or series 2 breaks series, something like that. That really sucks because you're there first and you're the last ones out. You also want to avoid teams having to play the last game the night before and the first game the morning of the next day. That's just as bad, pretty much, where a team really gets put at a scheduling disadvantage. The other thing you want to avoid is teams having to play multiple series in a row, especially in elimination. If you're in the upper bracket and a team wins, you can make them play twice in a row. But you don't really want to do that either, because then it's kind of you never want it there to be a de-incentive to win. Or to pardon me, to lose rather. Well, wait, I'm using too many negatives. I've turned my brain into a pretzel. You never want to incentivize teams to lose. And so let's say you're in the upper bracket, you're in the quarterfinals. All right, you're doing good, you're cool, you win. Next on the schedule, your semifinals. Winner of that is seeded into the winner bracket finals. You're like, okay, well, we just won, but now we're being punished for winning because we have to play another series back to back. And the team that you're playing against will never be the team that you just played against in the series prior. So those two teams will never be on equal footing, right? One of those upper bracket teams will have to play 2 series in a row, and that team will say, well, we just got punished for winning. If we had just lost that series, we could have had a game break, played an easier team, and then just had to play an extra series, and maybe that trek would have ended up being easier than trying to win 2 upper bracket series back-to-back in a row without any time to rest or really think about our second opponent. It gives that second opponent a big advantage. So there's all of these little things in tournament structures that you really want to avoid that on paper, you're like, oh, yeah, sure, this is great. We've got 3 best-of-3s, lower bracket, round 4. It's really hard to visualize. I think some people are a lot better at it than others. I am really bad at visualizing tournament possibilities, like looking at an empty bracket and be like, okay, so if these teams come through the group stage, if this one goes here, and kind of like theory crafting out all of the different scenarios and identifying spots where, no, this is fucked right here. If this team comes up through the lower bracket, they're going to have to play 3 games in a row. I have trouble seeing it ahead of time by just looking at the format on paper. So there could be some nuances in here that I'm not seeing that are not particularly great, but all of this stuff is very straightforward feedback from players that I'm sure that they've given Valve about how to set up tournament formats that they like and really approve of. So I guess to summarize this whole thing, I think on the ground level, this is a really solid format. I think it hits the key points of being easy to follow and pretty competitive, and hopefully it avoids a lot of those pitfalls that I just mentioned. Now, sometimes those things are unavoidable. You are always in the constraint, all right, we've got 6 days in the venue. We want to make them the best use of our time in the venue, have constant content going. Okay, what's the best way to do that? So you always have to find that middle ground, that average amount of content, because you can look at it from the other side where you have what happened at the Summit 3, where every series is a blowout. Well, what if we do 3 best-of-3s and they're all, 30-minute 2-0s? What do we do? What's the filler content? Because you can't have enough content to fill the rest of the day and expect to use it all the time, right? You have that, like, what's the right word? It's like planning rabies vaccines because they expire. You always want to have enough that everybody that needs a rabies vaccine has it accessible, but you don't want to just order as much as you can because it's all going to expire and it's very expensive. You don't want to pay to produce all this content you're never going to use. So you want to have this content that you can use and is flexible, and if your days are short, you can plug it in there, do an all-star match, or do something to kind of fill in the pieces. It's not fun. It's kind of fun, but there's a lot to consider. Making tournament formats seems really easy, but there's always these small things that get blown up as a microcosm of, that's just so fucked up. This team had to play here, and sometimes it's just the reality of it. You've got to play back-to-back series. The one time that playing back-to-back series is totally acceptable, the end of the lower bracket. When you're in the final few series of the lower bracket, you've done the lower bracket finals. Oh, it's like the pre-lower bracket finals, then the lower bracket grand finals. Then you go into the grand finals. That is okay. That is a specific disadvantage you're giving to the team that loses the winner bracket finals. You want those teams down there to have to kind of fight a gauntlet to get to the grand finals. That's kind of the hype. That's kind of that underdog story. So that is the one exception, I would say, when all that is okay and hunky-dory. The only other thing that people will be upset about is there's best of 1 elimination in the first rounds. I think that's made up for by the fact that nobody gets eliminated in the group stage. It does kind of suck that 4 teams will be eliminated in one game on the main stage, that kind of blows a little bit, but like I said before, at some point people have to get eliminated, and I think that is an acceptable amount of best of ones to make this schedule work and look nice and fancy. So that's my 2 cents about, oh, look at all those beautiful emoticons. So that's my that's my whole rant, my whole spiel here about the TI format. I'm happy with it. I really am. I think it's cool, and I think Valve has really taken to heart a lot of the feedback that teams and organizers and everyone else have provided. So, all right, let's move on here. Let's move from some TI stuff. What else do we want to talk about here? My brain is still in morning mode. My God. Man, even though this is the season for Dota 2 to be on the rise and everyone's growing and everything's really cool, it kind of sucks from a pub perspective because there are so many new players coming in. I don't know what it is. And I'm not sure how many of them are just new people I'm playing with and how many are just trolls and people that are not fun to queue with. But god damn, my pubs the last few days have been awful. I don't tilt that often these days from playing pub games. I don't actually get mad, like mad. I actually got mad the other day. Somebody actually got under my skin. You know what happened? I played 3 games. 2 of them had an ancient farming necrophos, and in both of those games he fed over and over and over, and I tried to tell him, please don't do that, it's not good, it has a win percent that's smaller than my penis, we're gonna lose, could you just go to lane, I'd rather you go into the jungle, could you just leave, I think that would actually make this better. Both times we lost. It was awful. So I had it in game 1, and then game 2, I played shitty and we lost. Then game 3, I'm like, all right, fuck it, Shadow Fiend, let's go. If you know me, I suck at Shadow Fiend. I go mid, and we get the Necro that's doing Ancients, and I just like, I was seeing red. I felt like that episode of Pokemon when they throw the ketchup in Scyther's face, and he's just running around, just chopping everybody because all he sees is red. Every time I died, I'm just like, just smashing Red Bull cans, just hulking them all over the place. I was actually angry. I had to take a breather after that game. I had to stand up and just go, okay, it's just a game. You're way too mad about this right now. Calm down, you fuck. And I did, and then I won a Dazzle game, and it felt really fucking good. But my God, what is with the AFK Necro? And I first picked Shadow Fiend. He second picked Necro. He didn't speak the entire game because we flamed the fuck out of him. He goes, boots first, doesn't buy a ward. That makes it even worse. Like, just buy a fucking ward. Then they can't kill you so easily, you fucking asshole, right? Then he starts flaming. Then he's like, dude, your Shadow Fiend was so awful. He's like, I picked Necrophos, so you guys picked like 3 mids. I'm like, all right, listen, dick. All right, I picked Shadow Fiend and point. God, I don't know why I'm talking about this. It just made me so fucking mad. I couldn't believe how mad I got. I was embarrassed actually about how mad I was. It was bad. Rob had to calm me down. He had to give me the old like. Rob and Joe were watching, which made it even worse. So afterwards, Rob was just like, watching that game. I could tell that you were not playing normal. Because he's like, I was losing track of my hero. I was just throwing raises left and right. I'm just auto-attacking creeps instead of heroes. It was awful. But, yeah, so on a more positive note, who saw that video of that lady having a baby in a car? My fucking God. That was one of the craziest things I've seen. Now, there's always these clickbait meme things that are, like, moving around the internet that I see on Facebook. This was one that I was kind of like, that's kind of cool. Most people probably haven't seen a live birth like that, and it makes you realize how stupid movies are when they've got a newborn baby and it's like fucking 5 pounds and they're holding it like, yeah, we just had it yesterday. Look, it's not purple anymore. You're just like, all right, that is clearly a baby. That is not a fetus. Like that did not just come out of you. Come on. What is this Hollywood bullshit? At least they should at least put some makeup on the wannabe infants, the fetus. It's not a fetus once it comes out. What is the newborn? That's the word I'm looking for. I don't give a shit, But it was really cool. I like that video. And what really just made me happy isn't the right word, but just really tickled my jollies about that whole video was reading the comments on YouTube. Now I'm going to admit, YouTube comments are a big guilty pleasure for me. I don't know why. I really don't. I know it's going to be terrible. I've talked to so many other content creators that are just like, yeah, well, we talk about feedback and where you find it and stuff, and almost everyone will unanimously say fuck YouTube comments. Like, what are you bothering with that for? There's nothing useful there. Like, it's actually just people trying to out-douche each other. Just, if you really need feedback, I'll watch your videos and help you, dude. You don't need to torture yourself. I'm like, no, I like it. You know, I like to see, like, it's sort of like NA Dota a little bit. It's interesting to see how hard people are shitposting. And it's fun to see, like, the grandparents replying to trolls and just seeing how far people will take those threads. Like, 50 comments back and forth, just insulting each other over nothing, over differences of opinion. It's just hysterical. It's such an odd human phenomenon that it catches my attention. So of course, and like in a video like this, my first thought, I watch it and just go, oh, these comments are going to be good. It's really the same logic as to why I enjoy watching quality television, such as Judge Judy, such as The Jersey Shore. One that I hate, though I admit falls into a similar category, Teen Mom Season 1. Season 2 sucked, but all of these shows are awful. You shouldn't waste your time watching them. But the reason that I have wasted some of my time watching them is because I see a commercial and I go, oh, that's a train wreck waiting to happen. You know, you see the highlight of the dipshits on Jersey Shore putting charcoal into a propane grill, and you're just like, oh, man, I want to see the house burn down in this episode. And then you watch it, and at the end, you're left completely unsatisfied with your dick in your hand. Just go, well, what do I do now? It's not even hard, you know? It's a bad feeling. But you still do it. I still torture myself. I've still seen most of the episodes of Jersey Shore for no good reason other than I want to see what's going to happen with the next train wreck. I want to see how it all goes off the rails. And that is exactly what I tap into with YouTube comments. And some of them were hysterical. Now, if you didn't see the video, basically this guy's driving. He's got a GoPro on, right? It's a GoPro, and it's stationary. It's clearly not holding it, right? His girlfriend, wife, whatever the fuck, she's in the car seat next to him. She's pregnant as fuck. She's got a seatbelt on. She just starts screaming. She's like, my water broke. I think the baby's coming. And literally 30 seconds later, this massive fucking 3-pound baby just plops out. And she puts it on her lap and is just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? She just starts kind of freaking out like, I just had a baby in a car. I just, what? And the husband is like super, super calm. He's just like, way to go, honey. Yay! Remember, rub his back. The guy's like not freaking out. He's super, super calm. He's super positive. And I actually was thinking, yeah, they sound like Bay Area people. And they are. They were from the Bay Area. San Francisco. You know, this is some San Francisco shit. You're stuck in traffic. You have a baby in the car. And they're not even really freaking out that hard. The lady was freaking out a little bit. But once she saw the baby, she was like, is he breathing? Is he breathing? And the guy's like, honey, it's crying. That means it's breathing. It's okay. I picture this guy like, I want this guy to be the dude that delivers the news when you realize you have terminal cancer. It's just like, you're going to die in 6 months, but it's okay. We've got treatment. You can still go hiking. You can still smoke cigarettes. You can still watch babies get delivered. Just look at all these positive things I can do with this hand gesture. Like, that's how I pictured this guy. You never get to see what the guy looks like because he's like holding the camera. So there are multiple stages of stupidity in the comments that just really tickled my fancy. And the first was how dangerous that he's holding a camera and driving. I'm just like, all right, it's a GoPro, idiot. And it's obviously on the ground of the car just looking at her. Second of all, they're clearly stuck in traffic, okay? It doesn't take much multitasking to hold a fucking GoPro and drive a car like this. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be fucking driving, okay? And then the array of comments for all of the feminist types are just like, well, I'm happy to hear the baby is okay, but if that was my husband, we would be filing for divorce right now because my husband would know to pull the damn car over. And I couldn't believe how many people were hyper-analyzing this emergency situation. And I finally found one comment that talked some sense. It was like, all of you idiots that are saying this is an emergency need to fuck off, all right? People have been having babies for thousands and thousands of years. This is about as far from an emergency as the human condition gets. If you think having a baby is an emergency, you're confused. It's an emergency in the sense, yeah, you need to get to the fucking hospital, but it's not like, she's dying. It's true, a lot of things could have gone wrong. You don't want to have a baby in a moving car if you can avoid it. But the whole pull over thing was just like, what's he going to do? She pooped out a baby in less than a minute. That does not happen very often. If he had pulled over, okay, so now she poops out the baby, and Now you drive to the hospital. That's exactly what they were doing the whole time, just driving to the hospital. It was interesting. I spent a good hour reading YouTube comments on this fucking video. I'm not even fucking around. That's how serious, how deep I got into this lady pooping out a baby and then people shitting on it. You know, it was pretty good. It was a good time. If you haven't seen the video, somebody link it, please. I'm sure if you Google baby in car, it'll be the first fucking hit. I mean, it's been tearing it up all over the place. Oh, it's all mucusy. So yeah, that was pretty fun. Moving on here. How much time do we have left in this podcast? Oh my god, only 10 minutes. Cheese and crackers. So here we go. Two more things we want to talk about here. I watched two great documentaries this past week. Y'all know I'm a big documentary guy. You know, I should make a page on my website that lists all of the good documentaries we've talked about, because god damn do I love a good documentary. Can I get an amen on that? That's what I'm talking about. So I watched one from PBS, and it's about internet addiction in China. Holy shit. This is something that I was topically privy to, but had never really taken the time to delve deeper and really, really soak in what was going on here. And this is a particularly big deal in China. Internet addiction. The idea, the idea of young people that spend too much time on the computer and they are addicted to it, and parents that don't know what to do. How do they handle it? That's basically what this documentary was about. And there are these, what I would call gamer intern camps, really. Kind of like a detention center where all these young people go, and it's like your classic kind of loony bin type thing. You've got bunk beds and padded walls, and everybody lives there, and you're not allowed to play electronics, and everybody just plays cards all the time, and all the kids are really angsty because they're like 15, 16. They get taken away from their friends and pulled from school so they can get this intense therapy to, you know, learn how to not like the internet. I don't really know what they're trying to achieve with it. And, you know, they show you like the counseling and all this shit. It's a huge industry over there, this counseling for internet addicted Chinese. And one of the young people in the documentary makes a really good point where he says, you know, the way that this is defined of how you have internet addiction, I think it was if you spend more than 4 hours a day on the internet, you probably have internet addiction. And he was just like 80% of people in China have internet addiction, if that's true. Like the internet is taking over. You use the internet for everything. And it's not just gaming. A lot of it was based around gamers, like people that play World of Warcraft for 16 hours a day, you know, that kind of stuff. But it was also about people that just go to LAN cafes and just sit there and they're just surfing the web. They're just in there, just, oh my God, I'm just soaking up all this information. QQ, give me everything. But my takeaway from it was that these kids don't seem that troubled. Internet addiction is a real thing. Basically, anything that gives you some sort of a serotonin-infused stimulant has addictive potential. People are addicted to sex. Drugs are the obvious one, but people are addicted to watching porn and jerking off. People are addicted to World of Warcraft. People are addicted to gambling. There are a ton of activities out there that the vast majority of quote-unquote normal people can handle in small doses and go, wow, that was fun. I just gambled away $50 at the casino. I'm going to do it again 12 months from now. And then there are people on the other end of the spectrum that invest their entire life savings into the slot machine, and they just, any quarter they can get, they're just playing it thinking this could be it. This could be my big score. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't have gambling. That doesn't mean that responsible people shouldn't be able to gamble. And the weird one about internet addiction is that internet is such a core function of our day-to-day routine. So drawing this arbitrary line of, well, you're on the computer a lot, are you working? I mean, look at me. When I was younger, there was a time when my parents thought maybe he's got an internet addiction problem. You know, I had stern talkings to about the amount of time I was spending on the computer every week or every day. You know, I come home from school, first thing I do is on the computer, and I'm on it from being at home. I eat dinner, and then I'm on it, and then I go to bed. And they're like, that's a problem. You need to be more engaged. In retrospect, it wasn't so much of a problem because I turned that passion into a career. You know, that's street cred now for being an esports broadcaster. So in retrospect, hey, that wasn't that bad a use of a time. He was actually making friends and building the foundation for what would become a career choice. But at the time, nobody had that information. Nobody knew that, right? My parents had no idea that I would pursue this through college and afterwards, right? So it's a really weird area to draw a fine line, and I think it's exceptionally damaging to young people to take them out of their environment and single them out in a way that by taking them and putting them in a place like this, you're saying you are completely broken. You are so broken that we're not going to allow you to be around the other normal people anymore because you might break them too. We don't know why you're broken. Maybe it's contagious, so we're going to lock you away with all the other broken people until we can figure out how to unbreak you. That really fucks you, man. That is a good way to fuck up somebody's psyche right there. Now, it's kind of analogous to jail in the sense that you need jail. You need incarceration for violent criminals. There are people out there that are just not wired right. There are jokers that just want to see the fucking world burn. They just want to rape and pillage and fuck and eat people because I don't know why. They're fucked up. Those are the kind of people you got to get off the streets. Lock them away, man. Give them the chair, whatever you got to do. It's for the greater good to keep them off the streets. But where it starts getting tricky is when you take like non-violent drug offenders and you lock them away. You've taken someone who maybe wasn't on the ideal path, but not necessarily a bad path. They're not a detriment to society, and now you're taking someone that could be a contributor and making them reliant on the system. And that's just a bad thing. It ruins that person. It costs society money, and it's just an overall net loss, you know. And I think this is a very similar thing. And you see a lot of the interactions with the kids talking to their parents, and I'm just like, well, the dad's like, well, he won't talk to me. And the therapist's like, well, you know, have you guys had problems? He's like, yeah, you know, I've been hard with him. I used to beat him, but I don't do it anymore. And I'm just thinking, well, you're confused that your kid likes the internet more than you old stupid douchebag? Like, what is wrong with you? You know, so I was a little let down by the documentary at the end. You know, it was a cool idea, and then towards the end, just like, all right, so this is just bad parenting. And then the parents don't know what to do, so like, all right, fuck it, we don't want to deal with this. Just throw the kid in the whatever they call it, the addiction place, and they'll get treatment, and then we can feel good about ourselves. Seeing the fucking mom's crying because like, I see how much you're on the computer, and it rips the family apart. You know what it does to me every time you're on the computer. I just want to fucking punch him. Shut up, you old bag. Get with the times. Maybe you should spend some more time on the internet, huh? Maybe you would be a little more interesting if you spent some time on Wikipedia and expanded your horizons. Oh, you're cranky because your husband is a douchebag that doesn't like sex anymore? Guess what? The internet's got you covered for that too, bitch. You got porn. It's the whole thing. Just it left me with this, just like, God, fucking bad parent, poor kid. I just wanted to go over there and do something about it. There's nothing I can do about it, you know. But it's a really big deal in China. It's an interesting documentary. It was done by PBS. You could recommend it. The reason I bring it up and the reason I'm intrigued by it is because it touches pretty close to home, right? If anything, my activities as an esports broadcaster encourages people to use the internet. So I'm kind of like directly influencing what they have labeled as kind of a bad thing. And that just kind of got my brain thinking about, oh, okay. Am I really? I got all like introspective for a few minutes. Like, am I really doing the right thing here? Am I killing esports by making people spend more time on the computer? Am I hurting the world? Am I doing bad? Is this not good? You know, and then I realized, oh right, that crazies. You know, but it was pretty cool. It brought to light a concept that I hadn't really thought that much about, even though I knew internet addiction was a thing. And that will be a continuing issue with this millennial generation, like the addiction to phones and devices. You know, you see the young, like the 8th graders now, they're just like, you can't have a conversation with them because they're just like, I gotta absorb my Twitter feed faster. Get in there. You know, they're just soaking that information up for no real reason. And I catch myself sometimes. Like, I have to make an active effort to, okay, I'm at dinner. Don't touch the phone. Or I limit myself. Say, okay, I'm going to check my phone twice during dinner, and I'm just going to let it sit here. You know, I try to, I'm conscious of it, but I have to make an effort to be conscious of it. It's natural to just, I'll sit there and just, hey, I wonder if there's anything new on Twitter. What's happening on Instagram? I just checked this 2 seconds ago, but hey, maybe somebody posted something new to Reddit. It is an oddly, it appeals to that addictive center of your brain, which is just kind of weird. So, okay, where are we at here? The end. So the last thing I want to talk about, this Atari thing. My, oh me. It's a pretty short documentary. You should definitely watch it. I think it's called Atari: Game Over. What's really cool about Atari that I didn't realize is it was one of the first companies that sort of started this recent, well, not as recent, this multi-decade kind of Silicon Valley boom in terms of company culture and mindset. This idea of engineers being rock stars. You know, Atari was one of the first companies that was like, we've got a really good idea. We've got these crazy, wild, creative engineering types that are really fucking weird, but really good at creating cool video games. Let's see what happens if we just give them whatever they want and see what they can produce. And their company culture was, we take having fun seriously. And they said basically they set benchmarks, and every time a benchmark was met, they just partied. They smoked a lot of weed, they drank a lot of booze, and they just programmed old video games on Atari and came up with really cool ideas for original concepts for games, your Galactica and all these other Asteroids, all these other classics. Pretty cool idea. They even had a nudist. This guy just standing, walking around the office naked. And they're just like, yeah, fuck it. He's an engineer. He's one of the rock stars. You can't don't talk shit to this guy, business dude. You know, I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't realize Atari was one of the early adopters of that kind of progressive business culture that we have now. That's kind of taken a life of its own. I'll spoil the documentary a little bit for you guys, and it's not that big of a spoiler. I reckon most of y'all are probably not even going to bother watching it. But in the end, they do dig. They get the clearance to dig up the landfill. Surprise, surprise. They probably wouldn't have made the fucking movie if they didn't get the clearance for that. And they do find E.T. games in there, but they also find an assload of other games in there. And it was rumored there were like millions of copies, and it was more like, I forget what the number was, but 10% of the cartridges they found in the landfill were E.T. And are a lot of other ones in there that were really incredible games, like the top tier, the best sellers of Galactica, your Asteroids, all those other classics, Centipede, whatever. What was the first game that had lore? What was it? Something with a Z. I can't even remember. They found a lot of those games in there, and that was interesting because the whole theory was that, well, Atari made all these really shitty games, and then they produced too many of them, so they had to hide them. They were embarrassed. So they wanted to just bury them and hide them in this landfill so that people wouldn't know how many of the shitty ones they made, and people would just forget about it. And it turned out that that's not really true. That's not really what happened. Atari just overproduced, and they got caught up in that kind of classic spiral that a lot of tech companies do, where you have a really good idea at the start, you have this exponential growth of skyrocket, just everything, revenues, interest, VC money, and then all these people are invested in you, and there's all this pressure to continue that kind of growth. They're like, all right, well, the big return was there. Now we want to see more growth and more push, and that's when your perfect cocktail of operational excellency versus strive for innovation can get unbalanced, and they just went off the hinges. They overproduced. They didn't sell enough. They didn't innovate hard enough. It all just kind of fell apart. So this was their way of, all right, we got all this extra shit, let's just dump all of it. So it kind of debunked the myth that E.T. single-handedly brought down Atari, that it was E.T. that was the game that was so bad. People were like, fuck this system, fuck this game. It wasn't really that bad. There were worse games. It was an awful game for sure, but, you know, there were other crappy games out there. And the real reason it was so shitty is because it was on a very strict timeline to make the push for Christmas. You know, they found this, they expanded their business model from, hey, let's create original games, to, whoa, look at all these blockbuster movies. Maybe we can make some shitty games about these movies and then just like kind of leverage the trademark to get people to play this shitty game where this green blob walks around and finds a telephone. Not a bad idea, but the problem is the timing gets very specific. So he had the program had a very short window to try and program this ET thing. And given the amount of time he had, the guy did a pretty damn good job, but it's still just such a terrible game. I don't know if I've actually played it. Played it at PAX one year. It's really, really awful. There's some weird bug where you get stuck in the holes. You know, you have a finite amount of resource for movement. Then you move around and you need to pick up all the pieces of the phone before you run out of movement. And then some levels, some screens, there's like a dude in a trench coat, and if he touches you, you lose. And you have to fall into these holes to get the phone, and E.T. can kind of fly, and he sticks his head up, and he goes, "Rah, rah, rah," and then you fly out of the hole, and then there's no like proper collision for when you come out of the hole. If you can think about it from a programming perspective, you've got a level, right? You've got this level, and you've got a hole right here. E.T. walks into the hole. Okay, you fall in. It takes you to another level off the screen. You flip it over. Okay, you've got another level. So E.T., he flies up. He gets out of the hole. It takes you to this other screen. But instead of doing some transposition where you would come out so you don't fall in the hole again, you just come out right on top of the hole. So you come out and you fall back into the hole. And then you go, oh, that sucks. So you climb out and you fall back into the hole. And then you get stuck in this loop of just burn, burn, burn. You're like, wow. This game fucking sucks. Why am I even playing? And then you turn it off and move on with your life, and that's it. So there's a lot of videos. Conan O'Brien did a really funny one about it. on one of his, I forget what his little segment is called, but it was really good. It really cracked me up. So, all right, that brings us to the end of another podcast here, guys. This is the TI5 Hype. What? We're shipping out tomorrow about 10 a.m. We're heading off to Seattle, so looking forward to that. Hoping to Instagram, Periscope, Twitter, everything under the sun as much as I can. Spread the love of TI and get a lot of cool content. I'm excited to seeing each and every one of you there. If you're going to be there, if there are any Zyori subs that are going to the event, please, please, please reach out to me. Let me know, and we can hang out at the main event a little bit, at least shoot the shit for a couple minutes. Want to say hi, give you a hug. Thank you for spamming Zyori Kale. So let me know if you're going to be there. Definitely can make some time for subs at this event. I think that about does it, though. There will be a couple of podcasts during the main event. I'm on the verge of signing a sponsor, a short-term sponsor for about 2 months here for the podcast, so that'll be fun. Some big announcements on the way just in general. So a lot to look forward to for TI, and then post-TI I'll kind of announce some announcements here. Nothing that I can even tease, but there's going to be some cool shit on the horizon. A lot to look forward to. So buckle your seatbelts, Dota fans, because this shit is just getting started. Now I want to give a shout out to 2 special viewers today. We're doing this new thing. Red Zelleroth as well as Townkill OD. We've got a couple of OD subs around here. Look at that. They're spamming the kale. Thank you so much, guys. Big hearts to you and all the other subs out there. This is the beginning. So, all right, folks, be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. We'll catch you on the next podcast.